Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Hey, Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend here, but let me be the first to welcome you to Japanese Week here on my YouTube channel. The Imperial Japanese Navy, one of the mightiest fleets throughout World War II. Now, similar to Germany Week, where we had a bunch of German-themed ships and different gameplays and replays and things like that, this week is going to be the same, except with the Imperial Japanese Navy. All right, so before we get into it, I want to do this one a little bit different, so let me know if you guys like this down below. Also, I want you guys to comment, and I'm going to try and get a replay of a ship that you guys comment. Now, of course, it has to be Japanese, and I want it to be Tier 4 and above. Tier 3 ships sometimes are a little meme-worthy. Tiers 4 and 5 are kind of where the ships start to get fun, interesting. You know, a lot of them are World War I, World War II themed around that tier, up to Tier 7. And it can even be Legendary tier, but obviously I have to have the ship now. I believe I have every ship of the line here with the exception of the Yagumo, so don't fault me on that one. And we actually do have a very funny replay with... Oh, gosh, let me move my giant head here. Please move. Nope. There we go. Sorry, giant head in the way, but there we go. Is that too? That's too small. Medium head. There we go. We do have a fun replay later in the week in the Azuma, but let me go over the ships of the line here, starting off, of course, with the destroyers. Now, I would say out of all of the different classes of the Japanese, the destroyers are probably the strongest in terms of their torpedoes and their concealment, doing the job that a destroyer needs to do of spotting, getting torpedoes on target. Now, with the meta of the game changing just a little bit, they have certainly got a little bbit weaker, in my opinion, and especially with the introduction of carriers. The Japanese destroyers, you don't see too many of them, with the exception of the Shimakaze and higher tiers. Oh, I think the Shima's got to be the #1 most hated ship in the game. But here is just a little highlight of the lines here. This is the torpedo line, starting out with the Wakataki here, moving up sort of the Isokase, the Mutsuki, the Fubuki, the Akatsuki, the Kagero, and of course the Yagumo. The Akatsuki was actually one of my comfort ships and probably the strongest ship of the line here. Just a fun little ship at Tier 6 there where if you get up-tiered, you can abuse a lot of those slow Tier 5 battleships. And of course, going over the kind of the specs and stats here, your torpedoes are really the dangerous part. You can see with certain commanders, you can have a 60-second reload with 10-kilometer range, a decent speed there, and a pretty good max damage. Now, the opposite or downsides to that is your guns have a very slow reload time, not the best range, and you don't have that much health. Now, in order to counter that, you have some decent maneuverability with some decent top speed and some decent concealment. On the opposite end of the torpedo boats, you have the gunboats, starting with the Minakaze here, the Hatsuharu, and you don't really get the true gunboat aspect of the line until you get up to the Akazuki and, of course, the Kitakaze. All ships which I have featured on my channel, so if you want videos of those, I will try to link them or make some fancy YouTube way to put them in this video, but I don't think we're going to be getting videos on those. However, I might surprise you, but these boats are definitely more gun-focused. You go after destroyers, you light fires, and you do have pretty good torpedoes still, but you only have one rack of them kind of on this central location here. Now, these do come with a torpedo reload booster. However, if you look at your reload time here, almost 2 minutes there, and that's kind of a long time in Legends, especially when you think about the first minute is getting into position, and by the time you get to the last 2 or 3 minutes, you're not really potentially getting those torpedoes on target. So you only have a limited time frame there. So, get that first set off and then, of course, use your reload booster and flood those areas. Moving on over to the cruisers, though, and this is kind of where I really enjoy the Japanese cruisers. This was my first line in the game, actually. I remember downloading this game in 2019. I used to watch the RTS carrier system, and eventually I started watching Flambass, and he just kind of made a video about that. But the Mogami was my first Tier 7 ship, and she is an absolute beast. You angle that ship correctly, those 203mm guns absolutely wreck. But if you're going to grind the Japanese cruiser line, make sure you grind the main line first, which is their heavy cruisers. The light cruisers can be fun, however, they have a rather slow reload, and despite having multiple guns, and they're basically giant torpedoes. If we look at the Shimanto here, which I've actually got a few decent games in, you do have some long-range torpedoes with a few of them here, with a 98-second reload. But it's very difficult to use these ships. So I would save this line of cruisers until you become a little bit more familiar with the game. Moving on over to probably The prime of the Japanese, at least during World War II anyway, was the battleships. The Ishizuki here, the Ichi Scratchy as it's called. The Kongo is a great ship. We might feature her, we might not. The Fuso as well. The Nagato is kind of the lemon of the line. It's just not really as good as the others per se. And the Amagi might honestly be one of the best Tier 7 battleships. I know that's going to be a little controversial, especially with the Borodino, the Lenin, the John Bart, the Missouri even, but the Amagi has fantastic armor, great guns, decent firing angles, and getting into that defensive kind of angled position is where the ship is going to shine. She has moderate accuracy, and again, we talked about the armor and a little bit of the speed. And then the Izumo kind of falls off, in my opinion. Now, like I said, we did get a pretty good game in the Izumo, but it's just, to me, it's just not anywhere close to a lot of the other Tier 8 battleships. But guys, those are the ships of the line, and I really hope you enjoy this video series. Let me know your guys' thoughts if we want to do more detailed look at a few of the ships you would like me to highlight. Now, I do also want to go over something because I was looking, as you guys can see, there's light in this window. I actually found a couple hours to make videos here today. But if you were to use a ship for global, the ship that you would want to get 100% is the Hayate. The Hayate is the primo Tier 8 Japanese destroyer. It's basically a gunboat torpedo. It has both good guns, good concealment, and good torpedoes with a moderate torpedo reload time. Well, I say moderate. 2 minutes there is a little bit slow, but 12 kilometers of range. It's basically 2/3 of a Shimakaze with better guns there. 3.6-second reload. And one thing to note about the Japanese destroyers is, with the exception of the gunboats, on the torpedo boats, their alpha strike, meaning the damage that the shells do, is very good. Yes, they do have slow reload with the exception of the Hayate here, but when you get those shells to hit, you can actually outplay a lot of other destroyers who don't know what you're going against or what they are going against. But if we had to pick one there, it would certainly be the Hayate. Honorable mention to, of course, why do I have the Udachi? Oh, it's for doubloons and for global there. Honorable mention to the Hyuga at Tier 5 there, and that's not global, but the Azuma and, of course, the Suzuya there. Both of those, honestly, all of the Japanese ships are genuinely very good in their own right. They're not kind of the standard bow tanking gameplay, which a lot of players tend to lean towards, which is majority of the Americans, I would say. The Baltimore with its 27mm bow. But these ships, the Suzuya, the Azuma, are both incredible cruisers, as well as the Otago. The Otago has lost a little bit of its luster there. The more ships that kind of get into the game. But I remember when the Otago was one of the strongest ships in the game there. I actually think I got a solo warrior with the Otago B. But anyway, guys, those are the ships I would choose for doubloons and or global. So I will be doing individual videos on both of these topics. Let me know if you guys appreciate that or if you appreciate more replays. I kind of like the raw reactions from replays, but we actually have an incredible one. Our very first game in the Zao, actually. And I never posted this just because it's... I just kind of been saving it, but anyway, it is here, and stay tuned for the rest of the week. We've got a lot of fun videos for you guys, but I love you guys. I'll see you then. Peace. All right, guys, and welcome to the very first video of Japanese or IJN week here. We are in the Zao, and we have a truly epic, just crazy replay for you guys here. This was actually my very first game in the Zao. That you can check the date and the time Wargaming gave me the ship. I believe it was update day. Sometimes they give us the legendary ships a couple weeks later, but I believe this one was actually on update day. And it turned into one of those games where you just look at your team and you're wondering, I hope these people don't operate heavy machinery. So I kind of just sent it, and well, the following game ensued. And you can actually see right off the bat here, you can tell it's going to be a good one because we sent out some zoning torpedoes, and that one you could potentially put that one on us, but our destroyer actually managed to block all 5 of those torpedoes. Yeah, so as we give him the coveted good job there. You combine the 20 hard-hitting, long-range Japanese torpedoes that this boat gets in combination with its 12 203mm HE and even AP combination on a rather agile, kind of armored platform, and this might be one of the deadliest cruisers at the tier. Now, you may be asking yourself, Aaron, if this ship is so good, why do I not see it in every game, basically, like we do the Shimakaze. And well, one thing you can kind of notice right here, we only have 3 of our 4 guns available on target, and if I were to take out the torpedoes, I could not launch them from this angle. You have to be almost broadside in order to get the torpedoes off, and in combination, you can only really fire your back guns from a safe, protected angle. On top of that, you do have 30 millimeters of armor, but that could be overmatched by 430, 429s and above. So Republic, Musashi, Georgia, Ohio, and all of those ships with those appropriate calibers. On top of that, while being mobile, you can see here, this is kind of a risky turn that we need to make in order to get into position, and if the ships don't feed themselves to you, you have to push in and get them. So what I'm doing right here is attempting to help our destroyer, who is sort of playing the cap. It looks like he took a torp or a nasty salvo. As you can see, his health is diminishing very quickly, but because we pushed in this position, we are able to get some salvos off on that Georgia. But unfortunately, there goes our Kitakaze, and at this point, I kind of realized, like, yeah, this game is not going to go how I want it. But honestly, that is how Legends goes. You adapt to your circumstances and you overcome. Now here, I'm not going to lie, I played this a little bit passive, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to a more exciting point in the game. I was hoping that our battleships would push forward and spot, but as you can see, even with how far back I am, they are further back than me. So again, you can't expect your teammates to be the heroes that you want them to be. So what you have to do is adapt and overcome. And that is what we do here, targeting the destroyer. That was a beautiful hit from us. That was about 5,000 damage and a host of incapacitations there, as well as a fire. And there we actually get one more hit as well. Anytime you can kind of take that leading blind fire to when the destroyer smokes up and is going dark, you should always do so, especially if you don't have anything else to shoot at, such as we don't in this situation. That Heisen, for some reason, took a position behind that island. And while we are broadside here, we are paying attention to that, so we are essentially at no risk at this point. That is when we notice this Worcester kind of going in the middle. And if you're looking at our team as our Alaska goes down, as I give them the coveted good job, it's not looking great. However, guys, trust me, promise you're going to want to stay to the end of this one. Unfortunately, that was not my thought process when that Alaska went down. As you can see, we are down almost 300 points there and 3 ships. So I decided, you know what? I am just going to send it. I'm just going to rush in here with my torpedoes. We have some massive torpedoes. We have yet to take a point of damage. We do have our 2 heals, and we're going to try and get that off and just meme anything in the meantime. A little side note here, while the Zao does have these dangerous torpedoes, you do not want to put yourself in these situations too often. You can easily get overmatched by, I think, every battleship at the tier, such as we just did right there through the nose. So if you are going to do this, make sure you wiggle a little bit, try and show just a bit of side armor in a fashion that is not going to get you massively blapped from the side. You want to play the Japanese cruisers at mid-range, utilize AP when you can, as we are doing in this situation. A broadside Worcester is a perfect target to shoot your AP at. However, HE should be loaded a majority of the time, especially against destroyers and, of course, battleships, which you don't really have a broadside on. However, do not sleep on the AP. I have absolutely blapped a bunch of ships, cruisers especially, with this AP. And again, here's a situation, it's just tricky because that Daring or Destroyer was to our left there, and now the Heisen is deciding to retreat, which is honestly the smart play. You know that when a Japanese cruiser is pressing you, he is most likely trying to get his torpedoes off, which is exactly what we were doing in this situation. And this is how I used to play my Japanese cruisers. I would try and rush in and just get my torpedoes off and basically play them like a very large destroyer, which is just not a smart way to play them. And here I am just trying to get lucky, guessing where that Daring is going to be. But again, stay tuned, because just like most things in life, Aaron does get a little lucky throughout this game. But alas, back to a very silly situation that I have placed myself in. Now a kiting Heisen here, pushing well into the enemy backfield. This is definitely not a textbook example of how to play the Zao, which is why I didn't put it up when I first got this game, because this game just turns into one of those meme, type games that Legends usually ends up as, where your team just chokes down 18.1 inches in the opening minutes. And speaking of choking down things, that Daring or Destroyer choked down that torpedo, which is why if you got the torpedoes on your boat, just send them. I know so many people just like, well, why are you doing that? Well, that was a widespread torpedo into the cap, as I give our Shimakaze, who got dev struck, a coveted good job. but it managed to hit that daring, and we now have a decent advantage on him if we can just catch him spotted. And for some reason, he decided to shoot. Now, he did smoke up, which was a smart play, as we decide to turn broadside to this Heisen here. However, we did look at his turrets, and they were turned away. Again, I'm not exactly sure what his thought process was, but we can't continue to chase him while this daring has us, you know, in his torpedo path, as well as looking at the scoreboard. There's only 3 ships left other than us. One of them is following us, and the other 2 are most likely going to go down. So, what we're going to do in the meantime is try and chase down this daring in his smoke. We know that he should be rather low after taking one of our torpedoes. On top of that, we're going to get the A-cap, and we managed to launch some torpedoes on that Heisen as well. We have talked about this so many times in the past, but if you want to be an elite player, especially a cruiser player, you have to manage multiple engagements at once. Launching the torpedoes on the Heisen while chasing down the daring, dodging the daring torpedoes while trying to remain angled to that Heisen as well. So you have to have all of that in mind. There comes the salvo from the Heisen. We are angled just enough, a few overpens, and it put us right in the middle of that dispersion ellipse. So within that quick little engagement, we have turned the tide of this battle ever so slightly. Again, I want to make it abundantly clear that this was just a game of circumstances, as are most Krakens in World of Warships Legends. You just have to put your ship in the right spot. I hate when I see a few replays and it's like the best game ever and you're going against people who might not have posable thumbs, and I think this may have been the case for this particular game. However, if you don't complete the game and you certainly don't put your ship in the right position, you will never ever get to put your ship in those set of circumstances. Meaning, if you sail broadside at the onset of a game, if you aren't paying attention, you know, to your surroundings, your crossfires, etc. So putting your ship in that right spot as the Alaska comes around the corner here. I'm just lucky enough that either our Yamato or other ships spotted him, as we were probably going to go broadside around that corner, and that is when we noticed the smoke screen, the Hayate out there. This is, again, a very tough, dangerous position. I decided to throw the torpedoes on the Hayate instead, as this Alaska was not really focused on us. He was focused on that Yamato. And here is a decent example of the AP. I think we get a little bit lucky with RNG. Yeah, 6 overpens there, about 8,000 damage, but I promise you, if you get 6, 8 penetrations with the HE, as we get unlucky once again with RNG, you will be doing a lot of chunk damage with this ship. That is when we push into this Hayate here, and yeah, he's going to be in trouble. The HE, even the AP on this boat against destroyers, you will absolutely smack them. Now, unfortunately, we knew that he was going to launch torpedoes, and we get just, like I said, this was a true game of inches, as we actually got the torpedo on that Alaska, and as there is quite literally about 2 inches of clearance on that torpedo in our bow. Now, that Hayate is still on our hydro as we are getting the alpha cap here, but as you can see, very quickly we have swung 10,000 damage into 100,000 damage with 3 kills. Now, we did get unlucky and get set on fire. We don't have any more heals, so we only have 4,859 health to play with. But that is 4,858 health more than I need, baby. We are still going here. What an insane turn of events. I told you guys this game was going to get good. This Hayate, I believed, was a rather smart player, as he waited to go into concealment before lobbing a shot, trying to reset the cap there. But with this cap, we do now have 2 caps, and we are ticking slowly into the lead. I'm not exactly sure why the destroyer and cruiser on the opposite flank decided to avoid getting the capture point. When you get the capture points, the enemies have to push into you. I don't know what is so difficult in trying to get that point across to the player base. I had a game the other day where Ashima avoided all the caps, and he actually ended up with a Kraken. However, we lost the game on points, and it's just one of those frustrating things that you see over and over again. Now, most players are out trying to have a fun time, but if you get the caps, then all of these ships have to push into you, and that is exactly what happened here with this Wooster. He had no idea what hit him. We managed to get that shot lobbed around the island there, and we are now within 140 points of the lead. An insane turn of events that I honestly couldn't believe in the moment, but guys, I promise you, it still gets better even so. I thought the destroyer was over here, and that is when I noticed the Hayate right in front of me, and I honestly thought I was dead, so I just decided to turn and get all guns on target in order to try and take him with me and, you know, throw out a meme set of torpedoes. However, he was shooting HE at my broadside, and he was actually shattering. If he would have switched to the AP, I would have been dead already, which is why it is so important as a destroyer to manage your AP and HE correctly. Now, he is getting a few hits as we connect a devastating salvo on him, getting the high caliber in the process. But there is kill number 5. However, it still gets better than that. With 882 health remaining, we have 527. I forgot about that last salvo. There is one ship left, and he is actually capturing that Charlie Cap. So now we do have to work our way into B in order to somehow maintain this lead. I couldn't believe just what a gnarly sequence of events. The Hayate shooting HE, which was actually shattering on my mid-belt there. He finally started aiming at superstructure, bow, and stern, which is what did the eventual damage to get me down to 500 health. But looking at the last destroyer here, we can see that it is a Delany. A rather tanky Russian destroyer, and we actually have no idea how much health he has. Judging by how our team, he honestly might be full health. So we have to play this as cautiously as possible. The good news is he doesn't have the best torpedoes, so we're telling this Yamato to push in, which is another key that I like to mention to a lot of players, paying attention to the scoreboard, right? We are down 80 points or so with 1 minute and 46 seconds left. Even if we were to get the cap, which takes 60 seconds, less time if 2 of us are in there, I don't think there is enough time for us to gain the lead back. So we have to push in and kill this Delany. If the Delany was, playing for the win, the ultimate team player, he caps C, he sails off into the sunset. If I was watching this game from the red perspective, I would be very frustrated for what happens next. We are spotted here. We only have 527 health. I throw my plane out because I don't have any consumables. I'm trying to throw anything at this guy to keep him distracted. He throws a beautiful shot over this island here. 2 of them shatter, and 1 of them hits us for about 300 damage. We have 213 health left to try and get the elimination on this Delany. So I throw out a rack of torps. I thought he may potentially stop and reverse behind that island. I am also waiting for him to come out. I'm not sure if he is going to be detected, but we don't have any other options. We are holding our shot in prayers that he shoots and we can trade. However, he becomes detected in his concealment ring. We throw the shot out. He doesn't manage to get his shot off. We get the Dreadnought and the coveted 6-pack comeback Kraken. What an insane replay. Did I not tell you guys this week was going to be good? I feel like Gladiator right now. Are you not entertained? But that was our very first game in Zao. I actually go ahead and show you guys the stats there, but a 36-44 first place 6-pack Kraken there. Not too much damage, but we did just enough to most every ship there in order to get the win. And again, that is just one of those games where you just look back and you're like, wow, that was an absolute meme. But as we've said so many times in the past, it's games like that that keep us coming back for more. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I'm going to go over a little bit of the stats and the armor and such, as I thought this was going to be my first look. That was our very first game in Zao, as I will show you guys here in the stats screen. But I will speed over our commander build. It was Epigreco Haguro. If you have Azure Lane Atago, she is going to be your #1 pick. However, I don't have it. I wish I did. Unfortunately, she is never going to return either. She is definitely the #1 choice. But here's our build. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Let me know what you guys think. Comment on the ship you want. Comment on everything. This video should get 15,000 views. I really hope it does. It was a fun one to do, and like I said, I'm trying to do some more fun, interesting content for you guys. Love you guys, though. Hey, run out. Peace.